Hey everybody, it's Alex here from Carnivore for Life. Welcome to a rare thing these days, a live stream from the UK. I'm really excited to have invited a friend of mine from via Carnivore and YouTube. It's Alison Johnson. She's from the States. Let's dive straight in and I'll ask Alison to introduce herself and tell me a little bit more about herself. Over to you, Alison.
Hi, so I'm Allie. You can call me Allie or Allison, either one. And I am 49 years old, and I've been doing a carnivore diet for 2 years. I have an extensive history with chronic illness, specifically autoimmune illness. And that is one of the reasons I started doing carnivore, and I have been very successful with it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think today we're going to talk about health issues quite a lot, which I'm really interested in. Just give us a bit more background about where you're from. You know, I believe it's Memphis in Tennessee.
Yes, it is. It's in West Tennessee. So
yeah. Anywhere near Dr. Berry?
Actually, yes. I'm about a little over 2 hours west of Dr. Berry, and which is really interesting. I always thought that was fun. So I did get to meet Dr. Berry and Nisha in August at an event that's over closer to them. So it was fantastic to meet them in person. It was amazing.
I'm jealous. I probably know I've met Kerry Mann, Adam Lacey.
Yes.
I've been interviewed by Dave Mack. It's just fantastic. I always say this to people. I don't know whether it's me being just a bit slushy, but I think carnivores are the nicest people going. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So how did you find carnivore as, did you find it like me? I just found it on YouTube via Fat Fiction. How did you first come across it?
Yes. So similar to that, in the middle of January of 23, I was trying to lose weight like I always was in January. And I ate something, like I had meal prepped and I ate something, and I had this really quick, intense reaction. And thank goodness it happened so quickly that like I walked in from the kitchen into my living room. I just took 12 steps and my throat inside was itching so badly. I got really red, like my ears were ringing and itching, and my eye, like my vision kind of got weird. And my chest got tight. I was like, I'm having an allergic reaction. I wasn't. I could breathe, but it just felt tight. And I was like, what just happened? And so my husband, Dale, I said, something's wrong. It was Sunday night. And I thought, oh, I'm going to have to go to the hospital. And I did not want to do that. And so I took a couple of Benadryl and I started feeling better, barely. But it was such an intense reaction so quickly that I was like, well, something I ate caused this. And it's the first time in my life it ever occurred to me. I ate this, it made me sick. So I started Googling. I was aware of detox type diets, like juice cleansing and, that kind of stuff. So I just put in elimination diet, and thank God, Michaela Peterson's story came up in YouTube. And I was like, oh, okay. So I related to her a little bit because I had autoimmune illness from the time I was very young, in my early 20s, and it was pretty severe. And so I thought, oh, I'll do this because I was desperate. The thing I feel like that scared me the most is that my eye got kind of cloudy, and I had already had 2 other times where I had, basically they think it's shingles in my eye. And I was like, I cannot go through that again. It was the worst experience. So I thought, well, I'll just try this lion diet thing for 2 weeks. And that's how I stumbled across it. And so within 2 weeks, I did it for 2 weeks, and I could tell pretty rapid improvements, but very small. But for me, it was like major. So I just kept learning about it because I'm a really intense person. So I'm like, if I do something, I do it 100%. And so I was in there Googling, just YouTube and binge watching all of these videos of people. And I did start from like the autoimmune side. And I couldn't believe that this was possible. I'm like, there are people that just eat mostly meat all the time, so that's what got me just, on the diving board, and then I just went in head first, and I was very strict for 2 weeks. And then I shifted more into beef, eggs. I didn't do bacon for like 90 days because I had problems with pork. Everything was causing a reaction. So that's how I got into it. And I have not looked back. I have not looked back at all. I feel better than I have ever felt. And that's saying a lot. So.
Yeah. So what was Dale's response or reaction when you said to him, look, I'm going to start this thing called Lion Diet because of all these particular reasons? What was his response?
My husband, Dale, is that what you asked? Yeah. He didn't think anything of it. He knows how I am. And so Dale and I have been married since 2003. We've been together since 2001. So Dale's lived with me with very serious chronic illness. And he's like, okay, and Dale's very easygoing. So he's like, oh, okay. He didn't start doing it. He's since has started carnivore himself. So he's been a carnivore for probably just a year and a half at least. And he started noticing how much better I was feeling and able to do things. And he was like, well, I'm going to try it, So I learned about myself pretty quickly that I am an abstainer. Like I can't have it. And I do much better that way. But Dale's the complete opposite. Dale is a moderator. And so, this has been pretty easy for him. He can still do like dirty carnivore. He can kind of have some things, whereas I just do better when I don't have it at all. So he didn't think too much about it. Nobody in my family or close friends thought, because I'm such an intense person, like I'm going to do this and this is why. And they're like, okay, she's doing this again, doing all these weird things. So I was lucky with that.
I mean, to go on to what people call an extreme diet, which is the Lion Diet, maybe, and as well, because you're female, I mean, you must have been, should we say, desperate, or you must have been at a point where you thought, you know what, I'm going to try anything. What were the autoimmune issues? I mean, I noted on my notes that there was a thing called Meniere's disease.
Yes.
Can you take us back maybe 10, 15, 20 years and the things that you obviously had to struggle with over that time, and maybe what you tried to do to, alleviate all the issues? Can you tell us about that?
Yes, of course. So when I was about 23, I used to have chronic sinus infections from the time I was a child. I would usually have strep at least once a year. So I can remember being like 3 and 4 years old, being on antibiotics all the time. It was pink. We had to keep it refrigerated. So that was my entire life. Then when I got a little bit into my late teens, I started having just strange symptoms. And again, constantly on antibiotics. When I was 23, I was at work. I was a courier. I was driving to doctor's offices and taking specimens back to the hospital. And I had I had a sinus infection and I had a lot of congestion. And I looked over my shoulder and I looked back and I had the most extreme dizziness. And I was like, oh, that was weird. Like I'd had ear infections, all the things. So I was like, oh, maybe I have an inner ear infection. So I drive back to where I was working, and my mom was a nurse. She worked there. And so I started getting sick, like violently throwing up. And I call my mom. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong, but like I'm dying. And she got me home and everything. So we got in. I was so fortunate in some ways that I got into a specialist the next day. And he told me, he said, what is your hearing doing? My ear was very full and it was ringing really loudly. And the dizziness had passed, but he asked me all my symptoms. He did some testing, like with a tuning fork, and he put it against and he's like, can you hear this? And my low frequency hearing was bad. It was poor. He said, you have Meniere's disease. We don't know what causes it. It's an inner ear disturbance, and there's no cure. Here's the treatment, and it's like a diuretic. It's a pill, and here's some steroids, oral steroids, to get the inflammation to calm down. See ya. Let's go. That's it. Try to eat a low salt diet, no caffeine, no alcohol, that kind of thing. And that was in 1998. So I was the only person. We never heard anybody else have this. Nobody knew about it. And they said, we don't know what's causing it. We don't know if we just don't know what it is. So I did okay for several years, but that was my first experience with chronic illness. And, that's dejecting to hear. We don't know what it is. We don't know, what's happening. So that was my first experience. And then I lived with it for years, and it would just hit me out of nowhere. And there was nothing I could do. I didn't know the signs or whatever. So I did know if I got a sinus infection, I was most likely going to have some trouble. And it was debilitating vertigo. It wasn't like I could do anything. And so, the first 4, 5, 6 years, I did pretty well. But then I started getting into cycles where I'd have these episodes and I couldn't do anything. And so I went into a specialist. I've had like 17 specialists, just over the years, but I went in and all of my specialists were fantastic. They did what the treatment is, which is the same today, but they told me, the same thing. Okay, the next step is a surgery. They put a little valve inside. The next step is more pills, more pills, more pills. The next step is injections into my ear. And this whole time, my hearing is going bad. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. So by the time I was 38, I had some kids. I had the girls, and I couldn't work anymore. I was unreliable at work because I get into these cycles and I couldn't get out of them. And it messed with my mental health severely. And I finally was so desperate. I told Dale, I said, we have to do like the major surgery. So I had major surgery, and I had my inner ear drilled out. It's gone. And I had to find like a special specialist for that. And it actually was the best decision I made. My quality of life was so low. I couldn't take care of my kids. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything because I was always either panicked that I was going to have an episode, or I was in bed, like trying to recover. I'd get migraines with it. You get brain fog. It's the worst. So that was my first major, I developed other things along the way. When I was 30, I had a slight fertility issues, like I didn't get pregnant within we were trying for like 3 months. It was not substantial at all. But I went into the doctor, and she's like, well, let's do some blood tests, because I was having these weird symptoms, always the weird symptoms. My hands would get really, really hot. I was having hot flashes, and I was 30, and my heart would race. And so they did a simple blood test, and it came back that I had autoimmune thyroid, hyperthyroid. It's called Graves' disease. And so the treatment for Graves' disease is a pill. It's radiation. It's you take a pill, and it kills your thyroid. And a lot of people don't realize. I didn't realize the implications of that at 30, but that is major. And you have to have a thyroid to function. It's like a master hormone regulator. And so now I have to take a replacement for the rest of my life. That, if I don't have my supplement, my thyroid medicine, I will eventually slowly die. It would be miserable. But so I had all of these things, and I just go to the doctor, and we don't know what causes it, but here's a pill. We don't know what causes it. Here's a pill, or here's a surgery, or that kind of thing. So those were my two major chronic illness, and they're both autoimmune, disorders. But then I started gaining a lot of weight, and I was older, I was 38 and 40, and they're like, oh, that's just normal. You should feel terrible when you're in your 30s and 40s. And, but then in 2019, I had the first episode of shingles. we don't really know positively that it's shingles, but they ruled out everything else. And I had uveitis. So it's inflammation in the eye. And it was, I thought I can't do this. And so I had to, I went through that first initial episode, and it took weeks, 8 weeks to heal it. And like, I couldn't see, it was burning and it was terrible. And so when that happened, it happened again a couple years later, but when it happened in 2023, I was so desperate. Like, it scared me so bad. And my dad had died the year before I started carnivore. He actually had a fatal heart attack. So I was trying to get healthy because I was older. By that time I was 47, and I was like, I've got to get, I got to lose weight because that means healthy. And I was like, what is happening? Why is this happening to me? So I was really scared and desperate. And that's what really pushed me into doing something super restrictive. And it's been the best thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling suicidal listening to the accounts. It's just incredible. It's, applause to Dale for being by your side.
Yes.
Absolutely crazy. The question I was going to ask was, what was your diet like all through those years? Was it plant-based? Was it a mixture? What was it?
Well, it was the standard Western diet. So it was a lot of fast food and junk food. And it was not we didn't grow up eating a lot of vegetables or fruit. And I didn't even like fruit that much. It really wasn't, I never consciously made the choice, oh, I'm just going to do plant-based. But I usually did high carb, of course, and low fat, no fat. And I did a lot of yo-yo dieting, because I had emotional, eating those kinds of tendencies anyway. And, we're close enough in age. We had the same experience, but it was always like, you can never be too skinny or too rich. You can't, it was always like, do these extreme diets of, only eat this or whatever. So I had lots of experience doing those kinds of things, but I never conscientiously thought, oh, I'm just going to do plant-based or anything. I did do a lot of that. I didn't like meat. I only ate chicken breasts and, dry, lean, that kind of thing. And I did always like bacon and eggs, but it just wasn't the main staple. So I was eating, in the last 2 or 3 years, I would eat more salads and fill up on veggies and try to do, all of the fad diet or the trendy diets of chia seeds and smoothies and, all that kind of thing. Cause we didn't eat anything like that when I was a kid. So I tried all of those things, and, it was very difficult. I'd gone on a diet in 2018, and it was like maybe 1,200 calories a day. And it was like a plan that you can Google and, come up with. And I was starving all the time, and I was eating 4 to 6 times a day, and I was drinking water first and then eating lots of veggies. And I had terrible stomach, bloating, and just tore up my stomach. It was terrible. And I was never successful on those because I was hungry all the time. So, and a lot of fast food. And when my kids were little, I wish I had known I could do things differently, but it just wasn't, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, it's a regret of mine, but I've had 20 odd years more practicing or eating all the rubbish. But, I think when we come across these diets, it is the right time for us. When you were going through all this hell, this medical hell, did any of your medical professionals talk about your diet or say, what are you eating, Ali? Do you think you should try this? Do you think you should try that?
No, that's not actually true. When I went to see my first specialist, the ear, nose, and throat doctor, he was a really great doctor. And he said, you need to, and this is standard practice 26 years later, because I checked. Yeah. And they tell you to do a low salt diet, or like the DASH diet, which is the heart healthy diet. I don't know. It's something like the diabetic, it's just really high carb and low salt. And so that was really the only thing. But no, never ask. And when I was going to the specialist for my eye, and this was in 2019, what I was having, the inflammation is directly linked to diabetes. And she asked me, are you diabetic? I mean, she asked me, and I said, no, I've never been told I'm diabetic. And so they did 25 blood tests on me. And I went back in 2 years, in 2023, and looked at my chart, and I was pre-diabetic. So it doesn't make any sense that they don't say to you, hey, you're pre-diabetic. Something is wrong. That could be the reason you're having some of these issues, So no.
So autoimmune issues, Meniere's disease, eye issues, shingles. I was going to ask things about hormones. I mean, have we got time to fit that in? I mean, it's
I know, right?
My wife Michelle won't mind me saying this, but she suffered terribly with going through the menopause. I think if we'd have known about carnivore, I probably would have tried to encourage her more and more and more. So she's on intentional keto because she supports me on my diet. And I've noticed Michelle's a very feisty, strong person. That's why I married her. But she has got this calmness that maybe she had years ago. But I noticed when she went through the menopause, she had a horrendous time. So I was going to ask you, what would you say were probably the worst things that happened regarding being a female?
Well, it's hard for me to tease out what is my hormones, like with my thyroid, because thyroid and menopause hormones are similar too. But I will tell you this, my thyroid and my menopause, because I'm in perimenopause now.
Right.
And 2 years ago, I couldn't sleep because of my anxiety. I woke up all the time in the night. What was the other one? I had brain fog. Like I had the worst brain fog. And very quickly, I did go to a specialist for my thyroid right after I started carnivore. And I'm like, I think I need my dose changed or whatever. So I was already noticing benefits, but I was a basket case for 10 years. And I think a lot of it was both my hormones and my female hormones. And it was terrible at the brain fog, and just a lot of times they say, oh, well, that's just because you're, in your late 40s or whatever. And it's so maddening to me now, because I feel better now than I have ever felt, like ever. So that's preposterous. But I think the high fat really helped me, and it helped stabilize like I said, I was really a basket case for years, and it has really chilled me out. I'm so much less reactive. I would the smallest things would set me off, and it really has stabilized my hormones so well that it's fantastic. I just can't believe it was as simple, not easy, but simple as eating mostly fatty red meat, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. So that has really,
about to say that,
improved.
it's having this ability to stick with it, isn't it? I think stick with the program. And I find that most people I speak to are very praiseworthy about what we're doing, but they go away and they do, they just get bombarded with all the propaganda, all the indoctrination.
Yes.
And I think I'm just so blessed, like you, that we've stuck to our guns. I mean, on my notes here, I've got things like mood changes, cognitive function. So we're talking about that, mental clarity. It's all connected, isn't it? It's all connected to the gut and the brain.
Yeah, it was so interesting. I didn't realize how much better because all of these things were getting better about, slowly, but at the same time, it was addressing everything, things that I had never connected. Maybe my anxiety was so high. It was so high. I couldn't do anything. It was almost crippling.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to go anywhere, you know. And it got worse, of course, from 2020 on. It had gotten really, really bad. And then my dad died, you know, and that was a whole thing, obviously. But I couldn't believe how everything was connected, and the mental health part of it, you know, really, like, so I had different times where, you know, I had really low, really bad mental health because of my illnesses or whatever. And I've been on different medication, you know, for those things.
Yeah.
And during my pregnancies, you know, they didn't ever say, oh, no, don't take that during your pregnancy. So I was on like SSRIs during my pregnancies, both of them. I was on, you know, all kinds of medication during both of them. So, and then my dad had bipolar. He was diagnosed when I was 12 and a half. And I think this could have been so powerful to help heal him if if anybody had known or talked about it or considered it, you know, many years ago. That'd be many years. So it's so important because it just clears your mind so well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we've talked about health issues and mental issues from a female perspective. What about weight loss or fat loss? Did you have any issues with that in the past?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I didn't have
I'm
any
not
weight
prying
problems.
on
I didn't have any weight problems when I was growing up. You know, I didn't start like having trouble maintaining my weight or, you know, losing weight until I was, you know, a little bit after the girls were born. I had the girls when I was in my 30s, but, you know, after that, things are different, sure. But when I had my surgery in 2014 for my ear, it changed my life. And, you know, it changed the way, you know, I stayed at home. I retired. I became a full-time stay-at-home mom, and I gained a lot of weight in those first couple of years, like 40 pounds, 50 pounds. And in the very beginning, I didn't realize, because I wasn't going to work every day. I wasn't doing those types of things. So I didn't have to wear, you know, professional clothes or anything. And so I didn't realize for 6 months that I had how much weight I had gained. And then all of a sudden, none of my clothes fit and I couldn't get my rings off my fingers. I was like, what happened? And so that's when I really started working on dieting. And again, I tried all of the latest and greatest trends, eating kale, making chips out of kale. It was terrible. I would try it. Yeah. And so I never did well on those kinds of eating plans, never. So I had been trying to lose weight for 10 years. So when I started carnivore, I noticed my inflammation went away pretty quickly. Like in the first 2 weeks, I stopped thinking about drinking alcohol all the time first. And then I noticed my inflammation was going down and my clothes fit better. And I started seeing a little bit of weight loss on the scale, like it was moving. And so after 90 days, I had lost 16 pounds, and I had never lost 16 pounds. And so to date, I have lost 50 pounds and maintained it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It was incredible. And, you know, I had stalls and I had different things that I had to work with. I had 3 months. I didn't lose any weight. I had lost 16 pounds and then I didn't lose any. And then something happened, you know, I worked with different things and pulled different levers and I started losing weight and I have maintained it. So I lost 35 pounds in 9 months. And then I have lost another 15 pounds in the last, you know, whatever year and a half and maintained it. And I had never maintained anything like that. And part of it is because I didn't get hungry anymore. You know, I can go for 4 to 6 hours and not be hungry. Or, you know, I eat about twice a day, but I'm not snacking all the time. And I just don't get hungry. And I don't have those spikes and crashes like I used to. So that has been great.
I mean, you say 50 pounds, which I say is, you know, to applaud. You know, you watch some of the YouTubers who've lost 400, like Bill Knott, for example, 300 pounds. I just can't get my head around that. I lost 47 pounds, so very similar to you. And I just can't describe to people the baggage that is taken literally off your shoulders. And then you realize, why didn't I do this years ago? It just wasn't the right time. But,
Yes.
like you, I'm just so excited about it, and it's sustainable. Weight loss obviously is not the most important, well, fat loss is important, but the mental and the other health benefits, which you've got like me, it's a list as long as your arm, isn't it?
Yes, it
You know,
is.
so,
It
yeah,
really
I
is.
just, I think I'm going to start doing more live streams because I think it's really, well, inspiring for me as well. What I was going to ask you as
Yeah.
well was when you
Yeah.
first started, you did the Lion diet for a couple of weeks and you started getting improvements straight away. So that encouraged you. What were the biggest, I know it's a negative question. What were the biggest challenges? Was it family, your children, your friends, work? I don't know whether you were still working then, but what was the immediate reactions from people? Did they spot your mood changes, weight changes, anything like that?
Nobody noticed. This is something else. No one noticed for 9 months, really. They could kind of tell, but I was working 2 days a week at a preschool, and people didn't notice there for a long time, but I'm seeing them, pretty on the day-to-day basis. I was very self-conscious about it though, because it's so restrictive, the social aspect of it. So that was pretty challenging in the beginning. And my family, Dale and the girls, they weren't, I don't remember that part being difficult, but feeling like a weirdo. Really, I felt kind of like a weirdo, and I thought about that a lot. And I didn't, I didn't tell people at work what I was doing. And so that was a challenge. The sugar cravings in the first 90 days, and just in the beginning, they were pretty substantial. So I had to like really focus, because at work, there was always like baked goods and candy. Like, I started really noticing it for the first time in my life. And I'm like, nobody is eating any kind of protein. They're living off of this food like stuff. And it really changed my perspective on what is food, So, and I thought, I just couldn't believe it. So I just kept my head down, and, I tried not to get too focused on that. But and in the beginning, in the first 2 weeks, that was pretty much the longest I've ever been able to do Lion diet, because Lion diet, especially in the beginning, I could not eat enough at 1 or 2 times. Like, I could not eat enough to really sustain that, because I had some meat aversions, because like I'd never eaten just such dense food, nutrient dense food. And I had always, restricted and that kind of thing. So those were some of the challenges in the beginning, the social aspect, I believe. And yeah.
It's meat aversion. That's one thing I think Michelle, my wife, she would have gone, gung ho with this with me, because she was probably shocked by the positive changes. But it seems to be generally, from all the research I do, that it's more to do with maybe we're the hunters, maybe the men are the hunters.
Yeah,
But
right. Yeah.
I will obviously buy my roasts or my joints once a week from my butcher, and if I put a ribeye out for Michelle, she will always eat the whole thing. But she will not eat meat every day. She's more pescatarian. But maybe it is a female thing. I don't know. Right. I've just got a couple of comments here. Let's get them up. Make it a bit more lighthearted for a minute.
Okay.
I've got one from Kitchen Witch. Hold on. I have that shirt, but 1974. I don't know whether she's on. Does that mean anything to you?
Oh, no. My profile. I have a T-shirt on that says "Vintage 1975," and so she must have. She has the 74. So she'll,
Excellent. Oh, thank you for that, Kitchen Witch. I don't know what. I think it might be. I'm not sure whether I've subscribed to it, but I will probably after this. I've got a question here from Amy.
Amy's my friend.
Hi all. Oh, great. Hi all. I'm joining late, but I love when you share your story and carnivore success. Are you heading to any meetups or meaty events this year, Ali?
So I only have plans for one event because we're trying to move from where we live in Tennessee back to Indiana. Our family's up
Yeah.
there. And so I can only think about one event, and that's going to be Hack Your Health in Tampa in November of this year. So I'm going there because I'll be 50 in August. And so I told Dale, that's what I want for my birthday. I want to go to Tampa, Florida. I want to go to Hack Your Health and in November. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, just on that, you don't look 50, and I'm not being, a carnivore gentleman. That is something, you've heard me say, I know you've watched some of my videos. I say it all the time. I constantly tell people, and it drives them nuts, but they know I'm going to say it because I have to say, I know I look better than I did 5 years ago, 3 years ago. There's no doubt about it. And thank goodness we keep all our photographs. And so now I'm at that point where I'm not as confident as probably I project, but I am out there now. I'm on a mission. I'm like Kerry Mann. I'm like telling everybody until they're sick of it. But I'm finding now that more people are starting to say to me, yeah, I am carnivore. And Alex, you look great. Everybody I do research on, they always look as if they're glowing. Like yourself, they look so much younger. They've got that energy levels of 10, 20, 30 years ago. And I know I'm not alone on this. And as I say, that is my mission. But yeah, you definitely don't look nearly 50. I can tell you that. I'm sure Dale's really happy about that.
Yes, he is. He is.
How old is Dale, by the way? Can I be nosy?
Yeah, of course. He is 7 years older than me. So his birthday's in March, and he was born in 68. So he'll be 57, and I can't believe it. So Dale's very high energy. We are so opposite. And so, he's very young at heart, and he can just do anything, and he's always got energy. He's always been that way. And so now I can finally keep up with him a little bit better, because I was always, I mean, even as a teenager, I was just, I don't know. I was just lethargic, like a sloth always. And now it's like all the things. Yeah.
I was going to say that another coincidence, me and Shell, there's 7 years between us as well. Yeah. And when we first met, I come to the conclusion that it's good to have that gap sometimes, because I know women are more mature than men anyway. I see that in my swim teaching, when I'm teaching children. You can see a massive difference, even when children are 5 and 6. No, sorry, I'd say about 8 or 9, and you can see the boys and the girls are the same age. The girls are so much more mature. And then I found out when I was doing my training that there's a thing called long-term athlete development, which is promoted in the States more than the UK. And they say up to about, what's it called? What about 13, 14, 15? Girls are 2 years advanced more than boys. So, and I think that goes into adulthood as well. Girls are so much more mature. But I think it's good to have a man who's a bit older, and you can guide us.
That's right. Yes. I agree.
Got a message here from Low Carb Spin. Hi, Ali and Alex. Hi, Low Carb Spin. I'll check your what's it called, your YouTube at the end, definitely. Guys, if you've got any questions, please, we're going to be here for about another 20 minutes at least. Please don't be shy. Put some questions on for Ali, and we're both enthusiastic about all this. Let me just hide that one. Let's go on to let's continue talking about meetups. You can see the Healing Humanity thing in the corner. I know that you're probably a supporter as well. I've only been to one in the UK, and unfortunately for us, the technology wasn't playing friends with us after I think Kerry's UK equipment wasn't working very well with us. But the meetup itself was superb, and we're hoping to have another one. There's quite a few UK carnivores, including George Goodenough, Lauren Tucker, who you probably know about, and there's a few others. Lee Copus, and I think there's going to be one on the 2nd of August, so I'll just promote that quickly. It's in Somerset, and I think there's 1 or 2 YouTubers putting some information out on that. I will be promoting it on my channel anyway, on the community page, but anybody in the UK, it's going to be a massive big meetup. They're organising it now. It's going to be sensational. And, hopefully we will catch up with the US carnivores. Yeah, so let's get back to Ali Johnson. Al, what advice would you give to women about the whole carnivore experience?
Oh gosh, I would certainly tell you that women, I would say this is definitely worth a shot for 90 days. Definitely try this. You can do it for 90 days. And it is going to be so much different. It was so much different for me because I had done a 90-day program in 2018. And it was, like I said, it was very low fat, high carb and veggies. It was whole foods, but it was, there's so many calculations, and I'd have timers on my phone, eat every 3 hours or whatever. And I was always hungry. And it was it was pretty intense exercise program too. And carnivore is so simple that you don't have to do all this math and calculations. And you don't have to count these calories for 90 days. If you just can focus on eating beef, butter, bacon, eggs, tuna, seafood, chicken, any kind of meat that you like, you can do it for 90 days and see how you feel. Just try that. It's worth a shot. And you can always try, if you don't like it, you can go back to doing whatever you were doing before. But, fat is not the enemy. And I don't remember having too many hangups in the beginning because I was just so focused on getting the inflammation to calm down and getting past that severe episode I had. So I would say keep it simple. Eat the food that you like. That don't get hung up on, well, that's not this, or don't worry about the dogma, especially in the first 90 days, and just see how you feel. This is really exciting. So I had been doing carnivore for about 9 months, and my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, he's like, well, I want to get healthy and I want to start this diet. I want to try carnivore because men seem to like to eat meat more. It's not, I don't know, for whatever reason. Yeah, exactly. And so he's like, I love that I can eat all the meat I want. And so he decided to try carnivore, and he's still doing it. And it's been a year and a half, maybe. So he had great success, and he didn't have the same issues that I had. He had none of the illness. He didn't get any of that kind of stuff, but he did. He was very successful. And so to date, he's lost 40 pounds. His, all of his metabolic markers are, great. And he's doing fantastic. So last year, though, my sister-in-law, his wife, my brother's wife, she started carnivore because she was having a lot of pain, like joint pain. And she's like, well, I'm just going to try this. So she tried it, and she has done so well. She's still doing it. So she just had her 1-year carnivore anniversary, and I think she's lost 60 pounds, and her mental health is better. Her brain fog is better. Her pain went away quickly. Her pain was joint pain. And I mean, she was very, she was like in her early 40s when she started. And she did it like me. She would ask me questions. She did her own research. She would ask me questions, and she just started incorporating it. And, the sugar cravings went away, and she got full, and she did it. And she's been so successful. And so for women, I would say set aside 90 days and give it a try, and do it simply, and see what happens. Just see what happens.
Yeah. Great advice. It's to me, my biggest support on that was when I was watching Lisa Wiedemann on the live stream. When she said your why should make you cry, I did get emotional. I got goose pimples because I found that my whys were happening after I'd started what I didn't know was the carnivore diet. I'd suppressed all my issues, and they were the baggage that we all carry around with us. We don't complain about it anymore. We don't think anyone's going to help us. And then all of a sudden they start disappearing, and you're like, what is going on here? So, I mean, to add to what you're saying, definitely, you've got to have a good reason why. Just got a little message here from Copper's Carnival. Greetings from Alaska, Alex. So glad I caught this.
Oh, wow.
I think Copper's. I can't remember her name. It begins with an M. I haven't spoken to her for a while, but she. I think she assists Dr. Chafee on his questions. On his videos. Really nice lady. She'd never really told me anything about her particular diet, but obviously she's carnivore. But yeah, thank you, Copper's Carnivore Kitchen. Just touching on what you said about cravings. I've noticed now today is 1008, would you believe? And I said to Michelle, I start to feel more wanting ice cream again. The sugar-based ice cream. Yeah. And I thought that would go away from forever, but that's my little craving at the moment, which I've kept away from. What cravings have you had at all?
Well, in the beginning, I would crave, my downfall was always brownies. And so in the beginning, the first 90 days, it was really interesting. Or the candy at work, the candy.
Yeah.
And I would think in my mind, like, I'm not going to eat it. I was really afraid that I would mindlessly eat something in the beginning. Like, I would just eat it before I knew what had happened, because I had done that my whole life. And so I could remember what it tastes like. So if I got a really bad craving, and I was at work and I couldn't do, any of the little tricks like salt or whatever, I would think about the way it would taste, and I could remember it, and it kind of helped, I guess. But I really don't have cravings. I don't think about it very much. And something that I wanted to tell you and to tell people, I was drinking a lot of wine before I started carnivore. Like, I didn't drink when I was really sick. I didn't drink socially or anything because I was so sick when I was in my 30s. But then when I became a stay-at-home mom and got better from my surgery and that kind of thing, I was drinking like it was pastime. It was my hobby, and it's so glorified, oh, I was a mom with young kids, and I was a stay-at-home mom, and it's glorified. And so I was always searching for that, waiting for that next, drinking or eating, that's just what I really liked to do. And within like 3 or 4 days of starting the Lion Diet, I hadn't even thought about drinking. And it was a nightly ritual. Dale and I would split a bottle of wine every single night and watch the TV, watch our shows. And so for that to happen, because I do have an addictive personality, for it to have just shut that off, I still cannot believe it. Really. Sometimes I'm still like, oh. So now at social events like holidays, or, I did have a friend that from childhood, and I found out he had passed away. And that was the first time, and it was like in the summer, it was the first time I had ever thought, I want to drink. Like, I just want to drink to take the edge off. But other than that, I really don't have sugar cravings or urges, to do that. So, that's great. It's wild. It's hard to describe. It's like, it's just gone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just on that subject, I'm just going to close 2 doors. We've got some neighbors' dogs doing.
Okay. Milika.
Right. The nice neighbors, though, so I won't complain. Well, I was about to say that I applaud you for bringing up the subject, because it is taboo. I have a similar journey. Carnivore has made me aware, more focused. It's given my family an opportunity to say to me, hey, Al, you're doing all these great things, and, we love you, and, we're supporting you. Have you looked at your alcohol consumption? And I hadn't really. I would still make the excuse of saying, hey, it's Cabernet Sauvignon. It's, it's the best one for carnivore.
Right.
Carnivore, or Prosecco. Hey, they're great for carnivore. Yeah. They're not. And it's, I could tell a long story. I'm sometimes a bit uncomfortable talking about it, but it does need to be put out there. I've said to Kerry on a few occasions that my alcohol consumption was so-called social. I've done it for, was it 50 years? I mean, I started drinking in Liverpool when I was was it 15? I'm now 66. You know,
Yeah.
it's become part of my life. But like you, I had a really stressful job as a senior executive officer in the government. Took retirement at 50, but it didn't stop me drinking. And I would use that as a professional excuse. I've worked hard, I'm playing hard. And on hump day, which was always Wednesday for me, it would be, okay, bottle of wine. Michelle would be on a shift pattern somewhere. And I would go into a second bottle, not thinking anything, because I was relatively fit. But it's amazing how this thing can creep up. And I agree with you. Since January the 1st, I've had a glass of wine on the 25th.
Yeah.
And so that's the only day I've had alcohol in 2025. And I think now we're into the 2nd or 3rd of February, aren't we? 2nd of February. I've just got no desire for it at all because I'm so busy and I'm not making those, you know, reward excuses or stress busting excuses. And as I say, I applaud you for what you're saying, because I do think it's more of a problem out there than we realize, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I really, really enjoyed drinking. But what I realized, I mean, I did,
You're not supposed to say that, are you? You're not supposed to say
no,
it.
I did. And so, but I don't know if it's, I heard it's because, you know, we go into ketosis or whatever, that it just does something. It's just like, I just don't even think about it. And I just, it's one of the most surprising things. There were a couple of times in my first year that I did have, you know, like at my son's wedding, I did drink then, you know, but it doesn't affect me the same way. And I just didn't like it anymore. And when I don't think about it, you know, I did think about it at Christmas and I got over it pretty quickly, you know, very quickly. And so I just feel better. I don't want to do anything to mess up how good I feel, I guess. That's kind of one of the things. And I have such, like I can't tolerate spices. I still cannot tolerate any kind of spice, not pepper, not white pepper, nothing. So I think it's part of the autoimmunity, whatever is in my system that makes it the way it is, that I can't tolerate certain things. I don't tolerate dairy very well. It will give me some aches and pains and some like anxiety, unnatural anxiety, because life, you know, you have kids and you have a family, whatever, there's always going to be some anxiety or stress or, you know, that's life. And so that's just how I cope with it, I guess.
Yeah. I think what you say about the ketosis is that I agree with you on that. Lauren Tucker was talking to Kerry, I think it was yesterday. It's worth checking out about carnivore. If you do it long enough, seems to take you to another level. And I think my cognitive, it's appreciating now that, you know, how my body's functioning, how I feel. We're going into a new sports centre this week, and I just can't wait to start. 5 years ago, if you'd have said to me I'd be working at 66 and I would be a swimming teacher, I'd have just laughed myself silly. It's impossible, because I just wouldn't have had any enthusiasm. But it definitely fine-tunes your cognitive function. I noticed Copper's, her name is Malika. I hope I've said that right, Malika. That's Copper's Carnivore Kitchen. And she just, I've got a couple of questions here, a couple of comments. One from Patty Perry. My craving is wine. I have several bottles in the house, and I'm considering that I might have to give them away as gifts to get them out the house. Yeah, exactly. That's what I did with my sugar and carbs when I started the carnivore. We just got everything out the house. And there's one bottle of sparkling wine on our little wine rack there. That's been there since Christmas. And well done, Patty. That's the best thing to do, is whatever's in the way, just get it out of sight and it's out of mind. So good one there. Next one is from Crypto. Have you heard about Dr. Clark from North Carolina? He treats many of these patients with specific tests and specific immune tests, and people actually get positive results, and some get healed apparently.
That's great.
Thoughts on that one?
I have not heard of that doctor.
Yeah. Well, obviously I'd never heard of it until you mentioned it to me, so I'm going to do some research on that one. Another message from Copper, Militia, sorry, Militia, I hope it's Militia. Thank you so much, Ali, for sharing your story. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
We are going to do this again, definitely.
Yes.
One more. Please make sure to hit like and support Alex, who supports and helps so many of us. And I obviously support Ali as well. I mean, on that subject, let's talk about your YouTube channel, Al. Let's go through it. It's, as it says on the screen, it's Carnivore Ali. Your name's Alison Johnson. Tell us a bit about your channel.
Yeah, so I started the channel. I started putting content for Carnivore out after 90 days of that. Yeah. So I'm so glad that I did those videos because I was nervous. You know, I was very self-conscious about it. But I couldn't, you know, I had found Dr. Berry very quickly after I started Carnivore. So, and something he said was, you know, do the videos, just even if you never do anything with them. So I had recorded a video and I posted it, and I'm so glad I have that to look back, because there are some things that I have forgotten about, you know, from almost 2 years ago to now. And you can see I look completely different. I do look completely different. And it's not just my hair, my face looks a lot different, I think, too. So I've been doing, you know, I try to do content of just every day, what we're dealing, you know, what I'm doing and what I've experienced with Carnivore, and then what we're doing with the kids. Because did I tell the audience that I have a 15-year-old daughter, an 18-year-old daughter. I also have a grown man son, and he is married, and they're going to have a baby in April. I'm so excited.
Fantastic.
Yes, it's so exciting. And so I just go through, like, this is what we eat. This is what I eat. You know, I do some of that. And I say, you know, I try to do like Carnivore 101, or this is, you know, a problem. And this is what helped. And I couldn't believe that my mental health got so much better. I couldn't believe that, you know, it never occurred to me that what we eat is making us sick and that kind of thing. And you know, how do you get to being 47 and never realizing it? But nobody realizes it. None of the doctors talk about that kind of thing. So I'm just really excited to share. This helped us tremendously. Like you were talking about, I'm a completely different person. I don't ever remember being this sharp, mentally clear. The enthusiasm you were talking about, you know, I never had that. I really never did. And now I wake up usually around the time the sun rises, and I sleep really well, which is a big deal to me. And I'm ready to get up and do things. I was never that person. I really wasn't. And I ask Dale about that, you know, pretty often. I'm like, do you think I'm different? And he's like, yeah, you're totally different. And so I just like to share all that kind of thing in a pretty, you know, down to earth. I'm a regular person. You know, you can try this, and this is really incredible, and it changed my life. So, you know, give it a try. That's what I share.
Well, I would like to say, obviously, to anybody who's watching, anyone who's watching live or obviously on the recording, please subscribe to Ali's channel, guys. It's so real. I'd like to think that we've got similar channels. It's, you know, I'm not very good at editing. I'm very much out of my comfort zone when doing all this, but I know the message is absolutely vital, especially in 2025. I mean, your country's going through so many changes at the moment, a lot of them positive with RFK, etc., and MAGA, and I mean, I'm not political, but, you know, it's going to be a massive change this year. We are going through a bit of a doom period at the moment. I mean, I want to keep away from the politics, but there are more and more people now saying, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think the carnivore revolution, I'd like to call it, is definitely going to be, we are pioneers, I think. I mean, the likes of, obviously, Kerry Mann, I'll mention, Dr. Berry, Dr. Chafee, Kiltz, Dr. Baker, obviously, was the first doctor I came across. You know, please, guys, follow these people. They're just unbelievable. On that note, what would you say were your favorites YouTube medical people on Carnivore? Who are your favorites?
Medical, Dr. Berry is my favorite medical doctor. I like everybody you mentioned, of course, Dr. Baker, Dr. Chafee, Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Wiedemann. Let me think. Yeah. That's the majority of them. I like watching Kelly Hogan. I've been in Kelly Hogan's groups and great group coaching. Kelly Hogan's phenomenal. I like watching Laura Spath. Now those are regular people. They're not doctors. And I'm trying to think if I watch anybody else. Oh, you know who I really like is yeah. And he's not like a carnivore, but Dr. Chris Palmer, he's a psychiatrist, and Dr. Georgia Eid. They're both psychiatrists that do nutritional intervention. I really think a lot of that. And that's because of my dad, with the bipolar and all that. So that has a special place in my heart. So it's so powerful that this message of what you eat, and you have to have animal fat for your brain to work properly. It's just a fact, I think, I don't know. So those are some of mine.
Absolutely. There's a message there from Low Carb Spin. Congratulations, Grandma Ali.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. That's either Karen or Therese. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I've been doing more of a meat-based diet, just confused about overeating or undereating. Hormones are in play for sure. Any advice on starting again, Ali?
Karen, I would say this can be tough, because if you have a background of undereating like I did, then there can be problems. But what I did in the beginning, I did track for a period of time. I did track and try to figure out, I never really was overeating because I just couldn't, so I would undereat. So I would track to make sure. I would use Carb Manager, that app, to make sure I was consistently getting, a good amount of macros. And I started off so I'd eat 2 eggs. I could eat 2 eggs in the morning. I really couldn't eat that much in the morning. And so then for a week, and then I'd eat 3. And I worked up to where I was eating 5 eggs, every morning. And I worked it up a little bit at a time. So that's some advice. If, the overeating part, I didn't really have too much experience with.
Wow. Yeah, with me, I was very fortunate. No keto flu. I just ate beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, and till I was full. Fortunately, I'd listened to Dr. Baker's videos. But I say the first week or so, I didn't realize I was doing carnivore. But then, obviously, the algorithms pointed all the doctors I mentioned.
Yes.
I say 12 months later, I found Kerry Mann, and Kerry was really the one who sort of inspired me to start the channel. But on those particular, was it Georgia Eid? That was Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind, isn't it? And Palmer, that's Brain Energy. I've got those 2 books on Audible. I would recommend them to anybody, guys.
Me too.
I've got more. Linda M. Good to see you again, Alex. Yeah, thank you, Linda. I'm going to be starting to do more live streams. It's just a question of trying to fit them in because my dad's not well, and I'm caring for him at the moment. So listen, I think we've had a great time. It's an hour. We said we'd talk for about an hour, didn't we? I'm going to look after Michelle now. She's definitely got a chest issue. She's coughing upstairs at the moment. I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody, please follow Alison on Carnivore Ali. It's a great channel. It's real. She's a real person, and I love watching. I've only watched half of them so far. But, any last comments, Al, before we go?
No, just thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I was really looking forward to it. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. We'll do it again. If you ever feel like inviting me onto your live streams, or we'll have a chat in a couple of months' time. I mean, obviously, you've got grandma issues coming up. Well, not issues, but you've got grandma. I've got mine in July, which we haven't talked about yet, have we, tonight? Just before we go, I've been able to tell everybody about my daughter Sophie. She has been carnivore, and I think it's helped a lot. I spoke to Dr. Kiltz about it when I met him. She had PCOS issues. She's lost weight, and now she's over 4 months pregnant. So
that's wonderful.
So I'm going to be a granddad. You're going to be a grandma. It's crazy times, isn't it? So
it is.
Congratulations.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there. Thanks very much, Al, and take care. And I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.